And good evening once again, everybody. Welcome to Hoops HD's Championship Week Video Notebook, our second to last late night video notebook of the season. David Griggs joining me. I'm your host, Chad Sherwood. We're almost at the end.
Yeah,
He's
kind
getting
of hard to
sad.
believe. Yeah, it's kind of hard to believe. We'll be on tomorrow. We'll have a couple during the tournament, but it starts in October, and in October, when you're waiting for that first week to get here, and you're waiting through those exhibition games, and we're doing all the preseason stuff, it doesn't seem like the season is ever going to get here. But once it does, it goes fast. I still remember the first night talking about how we were looking forward to the Army Air Force game.
Oh God, that was ages ago, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But here we are at the very end. Just completed Championship Week Friday. All the conferences either in the semifinal or quarterfinal stage. Huge amount of conference championship games tomorrow coming up on Saturday. It's actually one of the more exciting days of the year. Just all the conference championship games that are going to be played, plus the semifinals in the last few leagues that are finishing up on Sunday. Of course, the brackets. This final selection will be coming out Sunday. Our plan for tonight, we're going to review and review today's actions, preview tomorrow's action, update our survival board, tell you where our Hoops HD mock committee is in its process. But before we get to any of that, David, we introduced our new service last night. For anybody that was out there and had to work during the games, was able to email you, and you were going to make certain that their boss let them watch the games. Did you get any contacts? Did anything happen?
Yes, we've had several people utilize this service. We're still collecting feedback from it, but as far as I know, everyone that reached out to us, we were able to arrange it so they were able to watch the games.
So everybody that emailed you at david.griggs@hoopshd.com was able to watch the game. We want to let everybody know, if you have to work on a weekend, you have to work tomorrow or Sunday.
Or next week during the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, just send the email. What if you have to work evenings and you want to watch the CIT games, like the NJIT game coming up Monday night? Well, can you arrange that as well?
Yes, we will. We are here for you. Any conflicts you may have, I will straighten it out. And I'll even take this a step further. If your significant other has something she wants you to do or he wants you to do, and you want to watch the games instead, I will call them and straighten that out.
Wow, this is a new bonus service. I didn't even know about this. We're going to have to amend some documentation to make this official. But yes, if you have any reason you can't watch the game, then just email David.
Any reason at all? Yes, just email David. I will take care of it.
All right. Well, on that note, we do want to get right into the games here. I'm going to go ahead and pull up the brackets on my screen here. 1 second, we should see them magically appearing. And there they are. And David, kind of a bit of a surprise here maybe that I'm starting in the Southwestern Athletic Conference, but we actually had one automatic bid handed out today in a semifinal.
Yes. Yeah, in ridiculous fashion. We don't have a champion, but we have a representative. It might be the first time we've had a representative from a conference that wasn't the champion as the champion, if it holds out tomorrow. Texas Southern defeats Prairie View A&M. They advance to play Southern, who is ineligible. Right. I don't like this.
Obviously, if Texas Southern wins, that's fine. They're your conference tournament champion and the automatic bid winner. If Southern wins, though, Texas Southern gets the automatic bid anyhow. That's why we've highlighted this game. The one thing I will say, I am glad that it's Southern University there, just because of how it was such a last-minute nature. I know last season, but when they were suddenly be ruled ineligible and found out that that the staff there at the school had completely screwed up all of their APR data for about 10 years in a row.
Well, essentially, from what I understand, they just didn't have any.
Right. Well, it was all unusable. It's all deemed unusable by the NCAA. So it's going to be another year or two before Southern can get back eligible again, but at least maybe they can win themselves a crown tomorrow in a completely meaningless exhibition game, unless it affects Texas Southern's seed in the tournament 15 versus 16.
Right.
Let's now turn to the major conferences, and we'll start up in the ACC here, where today was semifinal day. And of course, we've been talking about Virginia and Duke all season, and we thought, the higher seeded team in the NCAA tournament will be whichever team won this conference tournament. So who do you think's going to win Virginia Duke tomorrow?
Uh,
Never
in
mind.
the third place game,
Yeah.
an interesting format. They've petitioned, and we're going to have a third place game. Actually, this is one of Notre Dame's better wins of the year. They had a pretty good profile, but there was things on it that certainly need the out of conference portion of the schedule kind of hurt them, I think. But this was a big win against a one seed caliber team on a neutral floor. I think it's the best win they've had all year.
I would agree with you there, and of course for North Carolina as well. Biggest win they've had all year. I think for both teams, you can say the same exact thing.
Yeah.
Uh,
You easily could. So again, the two of them play tomorrow, and again, it's just going to be one of those. They could really elevate their already very impressive profiles.
right, but North Carolina, Notre Dame. Guess two issues that come out of this. Number one, I think we both believe that Virginia and Duke are still going to be on the one line. Virginia may be in a little more trouble than Duke is, but just because Duke beat them head to head. But I think they're both remain one seeds.
Yeah, I think so. They're going to be one seeds on our committee, I believe. They are. Well, we'll get to that here in a minute. I don't. The real committee might favor Whiskey if Whiskey wins the Big Ten over one of these, but I don't know. We'll see.
And who do you have tomorrow's game? North Carolina and Notre Dame.
I got to go with Notre Dame.
I'm going to go with you. I'm going to agree with you there. Also, I was really impressed with the way Notre Dame played today, and I think they win again tomorrow.
Right.
In the American Conference, today was quarterfinal day, actually. 4 games were on tap today. SMU really sweated out East Carolina in the early game.
Shockingly so. Well, shocking to me, not to those who don't like SMU. But I was legitimately surprised how much trouble they had in this one. I thought they'd go out there breathing fire and just blow past them, and it didn't happen. They play like that tomorrow, they're probably not going to win. Temple, this other game, I mean, this was a game, Temple right on the bubble. They lose, they're probably out. Not that a win gets them in, but the one thing Temple has going for them that some other bubble teams don't is that they're still playing.
They're still playing, and they can obviously pick up a notable win tomorrow by beating SMU.
Yeah.
SMU wins that game. Temple still might be able to sneak in. A lot of whether or not Temple gets in might depend on what happens with the bottom of this bracket, as Tulsa is another team right squarely on the bubble, just barely got by Houston today, who was tough. And then UConn pulls off the upset of Cincinnati and is going to probably be favored tomorrow, I'd assume, against Tulsa, given that they're the home team.
I would imagine so. And again, Tulsa, I think they're outright. I think the real committee will favor Tulsa more than us and more than they should, simply because of the sheer number of true road wins that they have in what is a multi-bid league. I don't like it, I don't agree with it, but I think I understand the thought process. Here they are picking up another win away from home. That number keeps growing, and I don't know. I think that when you look at paper, even though it was a close game against a team that isn't very good, it's still, oh, well, here's another win away from home. I just think the committee is going to overvalue them.
Yeah.
If they win tomorrow, I think they're in for sure.
Yeah, that would be basically a true road win at UConn. But if UConn wins tomorrow, we are going to be sweating things out. The committee is definitely going to have multiple brackets ready because, as we mentioned before, the American Championship game will be 3:15 tip-off on Sunday.
Yes.
And so there's going to have to be a contingency bracket if UConn wins that game versus a bracket if either SMU or Temple, who would probably be either one of those would be in the field by that point, wins it instead.
And what we'll do, we'll explain. Do we want to? We'll explain this later.
Yeah, we'll talk. We'll talk about this a little more tomorrow night as well when we know exactly what the matchups are.
Yes. Okay.
Let's move on to the Atlantic 10, where today was also quarterfinal round day. Started with a really close game where LaSalle had Davidson exactly where they wanted them the entire game until the last final 2 seconds. Pretty much.
I don't know. I don't know for sure. Watching this game, LaSalle led the whole way, and I mean the whole way. Maybe it was 2-0, 4-2, something like that. Davidson. I wouldn't be surprised if Davidson's only lead occurred with no time on the clock. LaSalle had about a 9-point lead with 2 minutes to go, and I don't think they scored in the final 2 minutes of the game. Davidson hits a last-second shot to win. Now, this is important because when you look at profiles and you look at paper, there were teams that were inside the bubble, Davidson, VCU, Dayton, and well, those three. But the teams that were outside, especially the way that they were playing, they weren't playing all that much worse, and in a lot of cases just as well, as the teams that were inside the bubble, which led to these exciting quarterfinals where it looked like somebody was going to steal a bid. But as close as it was in all four games, really, the chalk held.
Right, yeah, Davidson. I mean, well, VCU technically the 5 seed, but they were the better team in terms of overall profile coming in. Another great game there. Dayton sweated out St. Bonaventure, but got the win. The bottom game down there, Rhode Island really just took it to GW, who really fell apart midseason, and their season has now come to an end. The one possible bid stealer left here is this Rhode Island team, and which begs the question now, can Rhode Island knock off Dayton and the winner of the Davidson VCU game and steal a bid here?
Yeah, they certainly can. I mean, they're good enough to do it. I'm not going to predict that they will, but this league has a lot of parity in it, especially, in the top half of it. They certainly can.
And this Davidson VCU game tomorrow, maybe one of the better. I mean, there's going to be a lot of good games tomorrow, but this should be a pretty good one to keep an eye on.
Yeah.
Let's keep moving right on along here. Up next in the Big 12 today, it was semifinal day. Kansas, Baylor, Iowa State, Oklahoma. Kansas really probably beat Baylor by more than that 10-point final margin of victory there. It was a pretty they were in control the whole game.
Yeah, and we kind of alluded to this yesterday. Kansas, after they got past the quarterfinals, woke up a little bit and really brought it today.
How about this Iowa State-Oklahoma game, though?
Oh, God. Iowa State has won 2 incredibly exciting games in the last 28 hours or whatever it was. This one, it was back and forth the whole way, just a blast of a game to watch. Oklahoma drew up and executed a play absolutely perfectly, had a game-tying layup or dunk, whichever, that would have tied the game and sent it probably into overtime. It looked like, Chad, when you watch this, he just couldn't decide if he wanted to lay it up or dunk it, and he ended up doing whatever it was he did.
He did half of each. He did about a quarter of each, which ended up being half of nothing. And I mean, for Oklahoma fans, complete heartbreak. The best thing you can say about them is, hey, I don't think it's going to affect their seed anyhow. I think they're solid.
No, and that is the thick silver lining. I mean, that happens in some other tournaments. It didn't end their season, but oh, good Lord, how much is that kid kicking himself right now?
Well, they will be playing again next week, so they'll have their chance for redemption.
Iowa State won 5 straight Big 12 tournament games. They were the tournament champions last year, and they got a chance to repeat this year. Real good job by Fred Hoiberg.
Big East, it was semifinal day, and another pair of really good games here. Two games, both decided by 2 points. Providence gave Villanova. I think this is the best I've seen Providence play all season today, even though they lost the game.
It really was. In just the way the game went, I mean, every time it looked like Nova was going to open it up, Providence just wouldn't go away. They fought back and had a chance to win all the way up until the final buzzer.
On the other hand, Xavier was completely pounding Georgetown until about 8 minutes left in the game when they were up 20, and
they were up 20.
Where you take it from there?
They were up 20. We had what was basically, we had a flagrant foul on Xavier. It seemed it was the correct call. It seemed unnecessary. We had a little scuffle. No, I wouldn't say a fight, but kind of a shouting/shoving match. No one was kicked out of the game. Georgetown converted the free throws and scored on the next possession, so suddenly they're really eating into the lead. And I think they went on a 17-4 run. They basically got it down to 2. actually tied the game. This game was tied, wasn't it? Or did they tie it at some point? Or anyway, they came all the way back and really almost won it. It was an incredible, after just getting pounded, come from behind, almost win by Georgetown.
It would have been as crushing of a blown game for Xavier that it may have. I still think it would have been the NCAA tournament, but I think it might have had carryover, and that could have been the end of their season. They could have been a one and done. Instead, they get a chance to play Villanova tomorrow. While I don't expect them to win that game, I think the Villanova will cruise there. I think the fact that they won the game is going to make up for the absolute collapse at the end of it. And it'll be a good learning experience too, while celebrating a victory.
Yeah. Don't commit stupid flagrant fouls. But Xavier here, there's another team that I think we're going to get to here in a little bit, is a team that was sort of teetering around the bubble. We had them always in but close to the bubble, always talking about how they couldn't win away from home. Here they are suddenly with 2 monster wins away from home. It completely changes the complexion of their profile. It completely vaults them up the seed list. I think they've done as much. They're arguably, I think there's 2 teams that have done more than anyone else clearly to help out their profiles this week. Xavier one, Oregon being the other, who we'll get to here in a little bit.
We'll get to Oregon in a bit, but I absolutely agree with you about the Xavier team. They are a solid tournament team. They're going to be wearing white in the first round, and they win tomorrow. They could be. I mean, they not only a 7 seed. There's a chance they could sniff a 6 seed, which is just amazing from a team that, had they lost to Butler, would have been sweating out even making the field.
Yeah.
Over in the Big Sky, it was semifinal night with the championship game coming up tomorrow. Eastern Washington really just took it to Sacramento State. It was an even bigger margin of victory even a more impressive victory than the 8-point final margin. Whereas Montana had a tough game from Northern Arizona. We actually expected
the opposite of this. Yeah. The Eastern Washington did surprise me. How easily they beat what appeared to be a pretty good Sacramento State team. I think they roll tomorrow. Even at Montana, I think Eastern Washington gets it done tomorrow. Yeah,
I agree with you. I think just the way Eastern Washington has played these last 2 games, amazingly winning 2 games 91-83.
Yeah.
So what do you think the odds are that Eastern Washington beats Montana 91-83 tomorrow? Would be.
I don't know, but that would be something.
Over in the Big Ten Conference, it was quarterfinal day again. Started off with that Michigan-Wisconsin game where Michigan hung in there with Wisconsin for most of the game before Wisconsin just put it away in the last few minutes.
Yeah, they jumped out early, and again, it looked like the quarterfinal syndrome that we see a lot of protected seeds have in these tournaments. It just didn't look like Whiskey really brought it, but they came back and got the win. The other team, Penn State, led Purdue for most of that game.
Yeah, that was we were starting to talk that, hey, we had this magical Penn State story brewing, and we do have another magical story brewing we'll get to when we reach the SEC, but this Purdue did come back and win it. They get the matchup with Wisconsin. Still a bubble team, Purdue, looking a little bit better. Obviously, beating Penn State is not a resume builder.
Had they beaten Iowa, I don't think they'd be on the bubble.
They beat Wisconsin tomorrow. I think they can ink their names into the field, though.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God, yeah.
On the bottom half, Michigan State really just took it to Ohio State. It was, again, another game that was not as close as that final score even indicates, I think.
Right.
Whereas Maryland and Indiana was a pretty good game most of the way.
Yeah, it was. Indiana was right in there all the way up until the very end, and I think they're a bubble team. I don't value them as much as everyone else seems to, but had they managed to win this one, they certainly would have been safe.
And what do you think about this Maryland-Michigan State semifinal tomorrow?
I like how Michigan State's been playing. Overall, their whole body of work is somewhat lacking, but they're playing their best basketball now. They have gotten better and better and better as the season's gone along. I would not be at all surprised to see Michigan State win the whole Big 12. Or Big 10.
Really?
Seeing them win the Big 12 would be really, really surprising.
So you think they beat Maryland, but they beat Wisconsin again on Sunday?
It wouldn't shock me at all.
Right. Tonight was semifinal night in the Big West. This was the last two games that just finished up right before we came on the air. And heartbreak for these UC Davis Aggies team that we've been following all season. They will get a chance to keep playing. They'll be in the NIT, but
and that's a good story. Hopefully, they get a good regional opponent. I don't know where. Maybe Stanford. I don't know, but
maybe.
I was really pulling for them. Hawaii. We talked about this last night. They've had their own turmoil to deal with this season, so it's a good story for them as well. It's just that Hawaii has some history. They've been in the NCAA tournament. They've had some success. Davis hasn't really had any of success in note, not even in ITs.
Right. I mean, this Hawaii story, Gib Arnold, their head coach, it was a major NCAA investigation, was fired with about 2 weeks before the start of the season. I think they may have been right before the very first exhibition game, in fact. Benji Taylor, who was an assistant there, former head coach at places like Chicago State, came in and done a remarkable job with a team that we thought after that turmoil was going to finish dead last in this conference. Their opponent tomorrow night, UC Irvine, beat Santa Barbara in overtime. Irvine has had a lot of good regular seasons, always faltered in the conference tournament.
Never made the opposite.
Never made the NCAA tournament. They're going to be the favorite team tomorrow, so we'll see if the Anteaters can finally get that first bid that has long eluded them.
Yeah. Wow, that would be exciting. Baseball's been far, but not basketball.
Right. So. Conference USA today, it was semifinal day as well. Our top two seeds, Louisiana Tech and UTEP, we expected them to cruise right into the championship game, right, David?
That's what I thought. I thought UTEP. I thought La Tech might have some trouble. I didn't think UTEP would have any. Both of them going down. One of the things about UAB playing in Birmingham, La Tech having the better season. Is it? I mean, again, it's just one of those stories. Is it fair that they have to go and play a virtual road game after finishing, I think, 4 games ahead of them in the standings?
And actually, I mean, UTEP had a nice lead in this game the entire way. Completely fell apart in about the last 5 minutes. La Tech actually tied it up, forced overtime. But then UAB suddenly woke up again in overtime and ended up winning it by 10 points. So, nice comeback from UAB after La Tech came back to tie it to to bounce back in overtime and win the game.
Right. So exciting for UAB. A program that really needed something to be excited about. They have a very winnable game tomorrow to get to the NCAA tournament. There's a little bit of buzz around that. Conference USA is, I mean, once upon a time it was a power conference, then it was a mid-major. Now we're looking at the 14, 15, 16 line, depending on which team wins this game.
I'll tell you, I took a look at UAB's profile. If they win this game, I think 15 line is going to be their cap, and they've got a real shot. I mean, I think they avoid the first 4 in Dayton, but they've got a real shot being one of those other 16 seeds.
And what about Middle?
Middle Tennessee, I honestly haven't looked at their profile quite as much, but again, I mean, this is a team not a great team. There's a lot of teams we've talked about over the course of this season in Conference USA during our Under the Radar podcasts. I think we mentioned UAB once or twice. The only time I even remember discussing Middle Tennessee is when they pulled the regular season upset of Old Dominion.
Right.
I mean, and this is a team that had a great year last year, tied for the conference championship, but was pretty much just a middle of the pack piece of garbage this season. And we really talked about that there was a line here in this conference, and Middle Tennessee was below it.
Right. And it's just interesting for a conference that likes to think of itself as not being a low major, getting on the 15 and 16 line. They might re-examine how they do a few things after this.
Yeah. I mean, the best thing that can be said about the conference overall is they're probably going to put a couple teams in the NIT and a couple teams in some of the other smaller tournaments as well.
Yeah.
With those top 4 or 5 teams they had. Mid-American Conference, this is a conference we were really looking forward to, these 2 semifinals tonight, Central Michigan, Toledo, Buffalo, Akron. We talked about some really great games we had leading into these semifinals. I was really disappointed in the semifinals tonight. They were kind of, one-sided, both of them.
Yeah, they really were, especially by MAC tournament standards. We're used to seeing these, epic showings. I think we got a good game tomorrow. Either team is going to be a formidable team in the round of 64. We've seen Buffalo take some pretty good teams to the wall, and Central Michigan we didn't really see much because I think they played, what was it, the 349th out of conference strength of schedule.
Well, Central Michigan, what I can give them credit for, they actually beat Toledo 3 times on the season now. They won at Toledo, at home against Toledo, and now here in Cleveland. Um, Buffalo, yeah, I mean, has that really high RPI, which made them an interesting case study, although not really a bubble team. First of all, as far as these two teams winning today, you wonder how much having those buys really helped versus having teams that were coming off of tough, hard-fought wins the day before.
I think it helps a lot, and I certainly think it helps tomorrow. I mean, obviously it cancels each other out, but I think we're poised for a really good game tomorrow where neither team's going to be out of gas. Sometimes in these tournaments, especially after the emotions of the earlier round, you get to the final game and it's almost the stakes are high, so it's exciting, but it's kind of blah. I don't think we're going to have that tomorrow.
Yeah, and Buffalo another team looking for their first ever NCAA tournament appearance, and they are my pick to win tomorrow.
As they're mine as well.
MEAC, here's another disappointment for some. I wasn't as disappointed here. This was a team that was in the tournament last year. Not as much of a heartache as, say, UC Davis going down, but North Carolina Central, who had not lost a game in conference all season. Go back to last night. I predicted this. Delaware State team said the NC Central better be ready for them, and they were not.
Right, and again, sort of another upset in the other game. So we have a Dayton-bound winner tomorrow between Delaware State and Hampton. This conference, last year, the number one team won. It's just one of those that never, ever seems to get its best team forward. Ironically, like Delaware State was victim, I think there were 2 years back-to-back where they either ran the table in the regular season or lost only once and then did not get out of the quarter. So here they are returning the favor and blowing it for somebody else.
And, we've said that going into this conference tournament, how much this was upset prone, and going into today, the only upsets we'd had were a 9-8 and a 5-4 upset, which were not major upsets by any means. But it finally reestablished itself as the crazy conference that it is when it comes to the tournament. Delaware State, Hampton. I am going with Delaware State as my pick tomorrow.
Right. Yeah, I am too.
In the Mountain West Conference, it was semifinal day as well today, beginning with a pretty significant upset there in the Wyoming-Boise State game.
Yeah, I don't know how big of an upset. I like this Boise State team. I think when they are on, their ceiling is really high. They have the ability to play well. They don't always do it. Now, having said that, Wyoming in this tournament has played as well as I've seen them play all year. I mean, they're hard to watch. They had some big wins in their, especially against their front range rivals, but this was their biggest win of the year. They obviously, I think they need to win tomorrow to get all the way in, but they may be able to do it. They have a lot of momentum going. A lot of excitement around Wyoming, at least among the fan base right now.
So just so clear, you do like their chances to make the field if they win tomorrow?
I think they can, yes.
Okay. This is obviously a team that could steal a bid from somebody. We don't think Wyoming has any chances at an at-large, so if they do win tomorrow, somebody else is not going to make the field. Colorado State might be the team that they knock out. Definitely a very bubblish team there that did not look good at all against San Diego State tonight.
Yeah, and that was kind of, I mean, a really poor showing. Really, I mean, I wasn't expecting them to win per se, but I was expecting them to play better than this when so much was on the line.
Let's move right on to the Pac-12 here, where we had semifinals as well. UCLA hung with Arizona for a while there, but Arizona finally put them away, leaving UCLA very squarely on the bubble. I think we both think that they're going to be one of the teams that gets left out among the top teams left out. But
they should not get in my opinion. They won 2 true road games, and that's it. They had a great. If you listen to some bracketologists, good loss is a category that cracks me up. They lost to Kentucky. It was a good loss.
Yeah, I don't agree with that either. I don't like the good loss category. You know, my slogan for years has been that good teams don't lose close games. Good teams win games.
Yeah, and that's not to say you punish teams for losing. It's for going out on the road and challenging themselves. And in some cases, maybe you do. It does. There is a residual effect. It factors into the strength of schedule. You can still have your RPI raised, but a good loss, it's like, gee whiz, look at all the great losses the SWAC had.
Yeah, exactly. As far as this championship game tomorrow, well, let's talk about Oregon here. As far as the championship game here, but you mentioned Oregon already. With regard to team that's on the rise.
I really think they are. They've been playing really well towards the last couple weeks of the season and all through this tournament. Really nice win tonight. I think they've done a lot to elevate their profile.
I'm not nearly as impressed with what Oregon has done as what Xavier has done. I mean, beating Colorado, while I picked Colorado to win that game, is nothing outstanding. And I've felt this Utah team is nowhere nearly as good as their ranking has been all season. Obviously, if Oregon can get Arizona tomorrow, I will change my tune on it. That being said, Oregon is solidly in the field, in my opinion, at this point.
Yeah, so it's all about the profile and seeding tomorrow.
Right. Do you think Oregon can take out Arizona, or do you think...
No.
All right.
Nor do I think Xavier can touch Nova. So,
in the SEC, it was quarterfinal round day today. We began with Kentucky. Florida kept it close for a half, and then Kentucky turned it on, and it was over. But the game of the day, the magical run of Bruce Pearl continues. Heading into the tournament this year, in the last 15 years, Auburn had won a total of 3 SEC tournament games. They've done that in the last 3 days. They've matched that.
Yeah. What's incredible about this was that, they were down in this game and fought their way back with like 2 minutes to go. I think they were down 6.
Forced overtime.
Yeah, they forced overtime. And again, they were playing their 3rd game in 30 days. LSU was playing their 1st. Just a lot of guts. This was kind of an emotional game. We had a little scrap in here, and after that, it's like, well, Auburn is losing a key player. No way they're able to pull it off now after having stayed in the game for so long, but they did. And now, if they pull off the win tomorrow, it will really be. If they pull off the win tomorrow, they're going to the NCAA tournament because there's no way they're going to get to the final after beating Kentucky and lose.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. Obviously, this is way taller of an order tomorrow than Mississippi State, Texas A&M, or LSU. In the bottom half of the bracket here today, Arkansas and Georgia both kind of rolled against Tennessee and South Carolina, knocking those 2 upset-minded teams that are looking to steal a bit out. A really a win that Georgia needed because they could not afford a bad loss. Now, right. I still think Georgia's a bubble team and really could use this win tomorrow for Arkansas as well.
Oh, absolutely. They're squarely on the bubble. They're certainly squarely on our bubble. They're missing quality wins. They have a few decent wins away from home, but their best one is probably LSU. They don't have anything as solid as this would be. And again, one win can really change the whole complexion of your profile. They get this one tomorrow, I think they're in.
Yeah, Georgia has a stockpile of wins in the 50 to 100 range, but they have no top 50 wins as of the moment. They did sweep Ole Miss, but Ole Miss is also another team that's in trouble after losing that game to South Carolina. I still kind of like Ole Miss's overall profile slightly better.
Oh, I like it a lot more. Winning at Arkansas, winning the games they won. Yeah. They have 3 really good wins. Ole Miss does.
Ole Miss's problem is they've got a lot of bad losses to counterbalance those, but Georgia beats Arkansas tomorrow, very different story. Georgia then beats Auburn in the finals, and they're in, of course.
Yeah.
Or Kentucky, but
If Georgia beats Auburn, wow. An Auburn-Georgia final.
Wow, no one would have seen that one coming, I'll tell you. Over in the Southland Conference, it was Also, semifinal day today. The top two seeds finally kicking off their play. Stephen F. Austin didn't have much trouble with Northwestern State. I guess it
No,
was
not
close for
really.
about a half. High-scoring game. Northwestern State is one of the fastest teams in the country, in fact. Where Sam Houston State had a battle from Corpus Christi.
Yeah, they trailed for most of the game. They really had to fight their way back to win it. So good job for them. And that's the thing. If you're SFA, who would you rather play? um, I think part of them SFA or I'm sorry, Sam Houston, slightly better opponent, so it'll help out the paper a little bit. Although I don't know what it matters, but Corpus Christi is the team that beat them.
Corpus
So
Christi's
they,
going to beat them, but again, now SFA is going to be asked to beat Sam Houston State, their number one rival, 3 times in the same season. So this is a huge rivalry game. I think it's going to be a really good game tomorrow, and I'm picking the upset here. I think Sam Houston gets them.
okay.
You're not, obviously.
No, no, I'm going with SFA.
Okay. Um, Sun Belt Conference. We had the two quarterfinals in this ladder format tournament. Louisiana Lafayette and Louisiana Monroe both kind of rolled over a pair of other teams, setting up 2 semifinals involving the only 2 teams that have not gotten their championship week conference tournament play underway yet. Georgia State's going to be playing Louisiana Lafayette. That's actually a rematch of last year's championship game when Lafayette pulled the major upset over Georgia State to steal that conference bid.
Yeah.
And Georgia Southern, Louisiana Monroe, who were tied for the lead in this conference for quite a while until Georgia State caught them at the end.
Right, and again, both the Louisiana teams, Lafayette and Monroe, had better seasons than what we were expecting, as did Georgia Southern. This is a fun little semifinal, the way it's worked out. The one team that did finish first, we thought they would do so much more decisively, and it's funny to say this, but even though they lead the conference, I think we're still kind of disappointed in them because we thought this would be a team that could end up inside the bubble, and we thought that really all the way through to December. But we have we have Louisiana Lafayette and Louisiana Monroe. That would be unbelievable fun as a final, and we have a possible Georgia State Georgia Southern matchup, which would also be fun. And where's this tournament being played?
That'll be in New Orleans.
Okay, so that's not so much fun because there's no fans there for either team. Well, the Louisiana schools, like if it's a Lafayette Monroe final and they're playing in New Orleans, that would be something.
Yeah, I think it would be. I mean, obviously, if you can go down to New Orleans, that is fun. But going there to watch the Sun Belt may not be. But Georgia State, on terms of the talent on their roster, I think is heads and shoulders above everyone else in this conference. They just have not played that way, and I think they're going to really struggle to win this conference tournament.
Yeah, agreed.
One final conference that played today was the WAC. Where it was semifinal day. Cal State Bakersfield hung in there with New Mexico State for a while. Only lost the game by 4 points. And the other game, Seattle had a significant lead on Missouri Kansas City, who came back late, but Seattle was able to hold them off.
Yes, Seattle really looked good. I've only seen them play a couple times. I haven't watched as much of the MAC outside of New Mexico State a couple times, but Seattle really looked pretty good today. I mean, they played well. They hustled. They have a lot of momentum. They have not been to an NCAA tournament since 1969. I think you had said earlier.
That's correct.
Yeah, largely because they reclassified as D2 for a while. This would be exciting for this school. They transitioned up. They're trying to build their program. They're trying to build the interest. It would be probably. I know they've been to a Final Four, but certainly since the three-point era, since the Field of 64 era, the biggest win in school history if they pull this off tomorrow.
All right. One more conference two more games we want to get to for tomorrow. They did not play today, but tomorrow we kick things off at 11 a.m. with the America East Championship game. Finally back in the America East after it's been quiet for a week since we had the semis, but Stony Brook at Albany tomorrow morning.
Yeah, again, Albany, they're going to be rammed in there, as you would expect, and I think they get it done pretty easily. They've been the best team in this conference all year, and tomorrow I think they finish it off.
Stony Brook got them at home earlier this year. Obviously, this is going to be a lot more crazy atmosphere than it was just for a regular season game. But in the end, I do agree with you. I think Albany's going to take this. With that, I'm going to pull down the board here. The other game we don't actually have a bracket for, and that is Harvard and Yale meeting at the Plester in Philadelphia tomorrow for the Ivy League championship and that automatic bid.
Yeah, and again, just an unbelievable sequence of events that led to this. The two played a week ago, Yale getting the win at Harvard, and at the time you thought, okay, like it's just a formality now. They just got to go to New Hampshire and finish it off, and it's over against Dartmouth. And they lost. Harvard wins a close one. Yale loses inexplicably. So here we are in a one-game playoff at the Palestra. I don't know exactly what the atmosphere is going to be like, but I hope it's awesome. It has the potential to be Harvard on one side, Yale on the other, big rivalry, all the marbles at stake. This one could be really fun.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, the biggest question here is how much carryover, hangover effect does Yale have from that heartbreaking loss? They did have a full week to recover from it. So that's the good news for Yale. Maybe that I expect a great game here. I do think just the way they've been playing the last couple of months, Yale is the better team. But again, I'm worried about the hangover effect, and I think that talent-wise, Harvard does have the superior talent. In the end, I think I'm going to go with Harvard to win this game.
I'm going with Yale. I think that they bounce back fine. And, I think after the day or two it was over, you start looking ahead, and it's a big stakes game against your big rival, and I think that's going to overshadow the heartbreak from the last one.
On that note, David, why don't we pull up our survival board? We'll put that up here on your screen in just a second.
Yeah, let's see. Okay, I think we got it here.
All right, and these are where we were on our survival board as of the end of the day. Yesterday, we were down to 121 teams remaining. That was heading into today.
Yeah, just scrolling down. We did some scrubbing here. You see, we didn't have any bids clinched today, but
yeah. Well, we did have one bid clinched today, but this was where we were as of the start of play today. So we're going to go ahead and in a second here we're gonna update it, and you're going to see a couple of things change in addition to the total number of teams remaining. You're also going to see the a few teams that we have locked into bids here that were previously just under consideration. So we're going to go ahead and hit that button.
Okay, here we go.
Big number coming up here, under 100.
Yeah, we're under 100, and again, a lot of these teams are still playing that really aren't in consideration. The ACC, everybody, that's left
is in, or Miami we think is still a bubble team.
Yeah.
Stony Brook we just mentioned, that's the championship game in the America East tomorrow. We think Cincinnati and SMU have locked up bids in the American, maybe up to 3 more.
Yeah. And again, Rhode Island there in italics, they'll have a case because of how high they were in the standings.
But they got to win tomorrow over Dayton.
Yeah, if they don't win tomorrow, I think they're coming off. So.
And the one thing that did change in terms of teams locking up bids, if we scroll a little further down here, you'll see the SWAC, where Texas Southern, despite having a game left, has locked up that automatic bid.
Yeah, crazy circumstance. We talked about that at the top of the show. But congratulations, they are the representative, even if they're not the champs.
And one other thing we want to get to here is we want to update you on where our mock committee is. And David, can you tell us the importance of our mock committee's updates and why we give them on this show?
Well, okay, well, the survival board, it's basically almost an instruction. It's what the committee looks at. Right now they know that if they don't see a team's name on this board, on the survival board, that they're not getting into the tournament. And they also know that if it's like not a team that's bold or italics, they need to win the conference tournament to make the NCAA tournament. Our mock selection committee is more or less a guideline. It isn't instructive. They don't have to do the same things. It's just something they can use as a reference for their own discussions.
Right.
We're essentially, it's an advisory role.
If you remember last night, we had told you that we had not only put 36 at-large teams in, we'd also added two more because we knew that we would have at least two spots opening up as teams won automatic bids. We had put Indiana and Purdue in those spots. One of the things that we did tonight is we found out that three more spots are guaranteed to open up as the Big East, the Big Ten, and the Pac-12 tournaments. Whoever wins that automatic bid is currently on our everybody that's still left those tournaments is on this at-large bid section, so those spots will open. We filled two of those three spots with Ole Miss and Texas. We decided that we'd wait until tomorrow to fill the final spot there and see if anything else opens up. In the automatic bid section, you'll see Texas Southern did get in that list there. And then the other thing that we spent most of the time tonight on was our seed list. You can see this over here on the right-hand side, where we have seeded the top 8 seed lines.
Yeah, and again, this is definitely subject to change. The games tomorrow will influence it. There'll be contingencies on Sunday that could influence it. Oh, we lost it there.
I'll get it back up in a second.
Okay. But, yeah, one of the things about that is, as soon as there it is, it's back. We mentioned earlier about the American Championship on Sunday. You see the seed list where it's 1 through 32. What we'll probably do is if we'll essentially, especially if it's a situation with UConn or a team that needs to win that game to get in, we will probably have a seed list of 70 and then just basically build two different brackets, one with one team and one with the other. 69, I'm sorry, I can't.
Yeah, we would do a 69-team seed list. If the difference is, let's say on the 9 or the 10 line, we'd probably seed everything identically through the top 8 lines and then create two identical brackets, one with UConn in it, one with SMU or Temple in it. And that way, as soon as that last game goes final, we will post on the website to check out on Hoops HD after every game goes final.
Yeah.
We'll have our final bracket up there shortly after.
Right. And what we're probably going to do, maybe going into tomorrow, but definitely going into Sunday, you see on my screen here the 90 teams. Tomorrow it's going to be below 80 most likely. What we will probably do is just to have contingencies for everything, is just to prepare a seed list with everyone that's still playing going into Sunday.
Yeah, and obviously you see there that we have a lot of these games coming in late. Well, are we ignoring them? No. What we'll do is, beginning tomorrow night and then doing it again on Sunday, we'll do scrubbing of the seed list, which is we'll go through each line on the seed list and say, hey, is this team correctly in the correct spot, especially in light of any recent games that may have played over the last 2 days, and move teams up and down until we develop our final seed list. So that 1 through 32 we have already is kind of a starting point for building our final seed list.
Right.
So on that note, we're going to call it an evening here, unless you have anything else you want to touch on, David.
No, again, I would just like to remind everyone of our service. Problems at work, problems with the family, problems with the significant other, parents, neighbors, whoever it is. Cable company.
Now this is just problems with blocking you from watching games.
Yes.
I can't call you.
David.Griggs at hoopshd.com. I will advocate for you. We will get it taken care of.
Okay, and you will be able to watch the games after David completes what he will do for you, correct?
Yeah, correct.
Okay. On that note, have a great evening, everybody, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow night.